Hello and welcome back to the Cricket Nerds podcast. I am James, I'm joined by Benji, and I'm also joined by Zach. One is a Chennai supporter, the other is happier. So, today we saw the choking Super Kings face off against Royal Chokers Bangalore to see who were the biggest bottle jobs. And it turns out that it's Chennai. So, Zach, do you want to talk us through the RCB innings?
Well, it started off very, very nicely. I thought the start of the innings in particular, the way that Faf du Plessis batted was like he never was in bad form. He just took apart all the bowling. We got through the power play without losing a wicket. We were 60 without loss, which you don't really think about that when you think about RCBs this season. And it was great. And then we just capitulated a little bit. But at the end, Dinesh Karthik, Mahapal Lomror, who is looking in great touch. He's been a great addition to this side. And Rajat Patidar, who is another great addition, who, let me mention, wouldn't have been in this IPL if it wasn't for an injury to Lovenith Sisodia. They've just done really well in getting us to 173, which looked like a long way off. It looked like we were going to be getting around 160. So to get 173, I was very happy. Some questionable running between the wickets that was going on. Also some questionable fielding about Chennai, which I'm sure we'll get to in a sec. But I was just very impressed with the fact that we just kept going. No one other than Glenn Maxwell's run out and the tail enders, everyone put in a performance, and that was what I was really happy to see. We aren't relying on one or two players like we know that Royal Challengers usually do, and we've seen that relying on everyone, that's the way you win tournaments. So come on, RCB, you can do it. Very happy.
I think the fact that 5 out of your top 6 all put in a decent shift, all got starts, I think spoke wonders about what RCB did. It was interesting because, as you say, the fielding from Chennai was horrendous. And I think we should probably also touch on the third umpiring for the Harshal Patel run out, because I think that was one of the worst pieces of DRS that I've ever seen.
He shouldered it onto the... Well, he used his shoulder, didn't he?
The shoulder displaced the bail, and then the ball just hit the stump. But the rules are, once the bail's been displaced, you either have to remove the other bail or remove the stump from the ground, and neither of those things happened when the ball hit the stump. So, yeah, it was pretty bad. So it was pretty shambolic. So yeah, that was sort of where that was. But yeah, the Chennai field looked horrendous. I think that RCB probably finished 10 to 15 runs they got 10 to 15 runs too many, especially after that middle over, especially after Theekshankar's 19th over, which I was a bit dubious about having Theekshankar as a death bowler. James, I also think how would you summarise the Chennai bowling?
Yeah, well, I was going to say that even though I think RCB ended up with probably 10, 15 more than they deserved to get following CSK's sort of bowling display, particularly Theekshana. I also think it was about 10, 15 runs short of par for that wicket. So, Theekshana was absolutely the standout of the bowlers. He was absolutely brilliant. But also Moeen Ali brought him back, and he was getting some proper good rip. And the ball he got, the ball he bowled to get out Virat Kohli, that was a beauty. Yeah. It was really good bowling. So overall, I think your pacers didn't do well. They didn't look good at all. They were all above 10 and over. But your spinners, they looked absolutely excellent. And the pace they get through their overs, it meant that like within a sort of a blink of an eye, RCB were like 15 overs in, and they were really going quite, they weren't doing that well. So the game just sort of ran away from them because Moeen Ali and Jadeja they race through their overs so quickly. It just sort of doesn't give the batsman time to process the fact that he's batting at a strike rate of like 120. So it was very impressive. But I think, important to stress that you need to bowl well in the death overs. And Dwayne Pretorius was just a bit off his mark today.
That was my I think biggest issue with that innings was the fact that Pretorius, he went for 4 boundaries in the 2 overs. Like those 2 overs cost Chennai 34 runs, and I think they were 34 very important runs when it came to it at the end. And it wasn't just bowling bad balls that got hit for boundaries. It was also a lack of urgency in the field. And there were definitely some 2s that were ran that shouldn't have been 2s. There were definitely some 1s that were turned into 2s by poor fielding from Chennai. So I think there's a lot of work that needs to be done there, which just left Chennai a little bit, I think, too much work to do for that chase.
So, Zach, do you want to pick out some highlights of the Chennai innings?
Yeah, for sure. There were a few high points, really. Rituraj Gaikwad and Devon Conway's opening partnership in particular, they look really good. They work really well together. And because Devon Conway, left-hander, Gaikwad, right-hander, so they have that combination going. But the way Devon Conway hits some of his shots, it's just clean hitting. It looks amazing. And you could argue that he's like one of the best players who can play all formats. His record in T20 opening the batting is he's got an average of over 60, which is insane. And we know what Rituraj Gaikwad can do. We saw it last season. We saw it last game. And then the other one was Moeen Ali. So a big plus for Chennai is having him back in their lineup because he looked really good. He hit a few clean shots, as we know he can. But that was about it, really. So Benj, you must be disappointed with your other batsmen, really, because they didn't perform.
It's a big difference between like the Chennai innings and the RCB innings. With the RCB innings, you see all of that top 6 contributed, whereas Chennai, let's face it, Chennai have got a top 7 with Dhoni coming in at number 7, and there were really only 3 big contributions out of that. I mean, that sort of middle order of Utpal, Raidu and Moeen not a lot really happened during that time, aside from Moeen coming in and sort of striking a few cleanly. I mean, Raidu hit 1 big good shot and then got himself out, similar to Utpal, like he just top edge one, didn't he? Whether it's affected Utpal that he's dropped down the order a bit because Conway's coming in to open, I'm not sure whether that affects him, but then it shouldn't, because in previous IPL years, he sort of batted all around that order. I do like the depth that Chennai have. I think positive-wise, I think being able to hold Moeen back till number 5, I think is quite good. And you could see that they were trying to keep that left-hand, right-hand combination going. So sort of holding Moeen back until Devon Conway went, which is probably why he didn't come in till number 5. But yeah, I think all in all, yeah, a little bit disappointed. And I think it was just, I think overall for Chennai, there was just a little bit of a lack of like drive. I think it was all just a bit sluggish and a bit, I can't really be bothered. Like, we're not going to qualify. I can't really be bothered, which I don't like to see. I think that, like, look, you're an IPL team. You're one of the most successful teams in the competition. You should really always be trying to give your all. Taking nothing away, I think, from the RCB bowling, were there any sort of highlights from there for either of you?
I thought Josh Hazelwood is still a standout for RCB. Somehow he manages to constantly like bowl test lines and take test wickets and have a test economy. He decides he wants to play test matches, and everybody kind of has to follow suit because he's so good. And yeah, I was very impressed with his bowling. He's just so tight, so difficult to get away. As a bowler, I would love to know what it feels like just to know you can hit exactly the same spot. Like, a 2p piece on the pitch, you know you can hit that every single time. Like, that must feel amazing. That must be such a boost, and he's using it. The other pick of the bowlers I thought was Glenn Maxwell, bowling his quota of 4 overs for the first, or I think it's like the 3rd or 4th time, even though he's played like 100 odd matches. So yeah, I thought he was good. But Zach, what do you think of the rest of them?
Well, just off Maxwell, I think it was very clever the fact they bowled him primarily against Uttapar and Raidu, because their pace on batsmen, they like the pace on the wicket, and it was definitely a spinner's day. We saw that with Chennai, we saw that with RCB, but let's not forget Harshal Patel, who whenever he's man of the match, whenever he performs for RCB, he seems to get man of the match because he's a match winner. That's what he does. He comes in, he bowls the difficult overs. I think his first over was the 14th or the 15th over. And yeah, he just delivered, and he just bowls really well all the time. I don't see him fail to deliver. But there was one thing which I think Royal Challengers could have done, and that was at the start of their innings, the Chennai innings, Gaikwad and Conway were going well, and they'd bowled 4 overs, and Hazelwood, who bowled the 4th over, had bowled really tight over, only went for about 2 runs. And I thought, right, we need to keep the pressure on here because they're going to look to target the 5th over. And I was thinking, we need to bring in a bowler who isn't going to go for many runs, maybe Harshal Patel. And I think he would have been the best bowler to bowl that 5th over. But instead, we went to Mohammad Siraj, who went for about 12. So I think in the power play, what we're seeing is that teams are trying to target overs. And I think we need to see, teams that are bowling need to pick their bowler who's not going to go for many runs and can keep it tight to keep that pressure on to maybe lose a few wickets in the power play. But yeah, that's just something I think teams will need to watch out for in future. But all in all, I'm very happy. Great game. Royal Challengers won.
Should we do a couple of quick heroes and villains?
Of course.
I'm happy to start off.
Go on.
Because I've got a bit of an alternative hero and villain right off the bat. Because my hero is from the losing side, because it's Moeen Ali. I thought he bowled brilliantly and he played a good knock. So it was an all-round performance from Moeen. And my villain is from the winning side, because it was Mohammad Siraj, because he basically did nothing all day apart from bowl 2 pretty poor overs. So as far as like useful people go, he was not. He was really useless. And a special mention for people that are a bit useless. With the bat, Hasaranga has not justified his price tag at all. And with the ball, he's doing his job, but he's being quite expensive at it. And I just wonder whether or not, looking back, RCB were thinking we could have saved like probably 5 or 6 crore on Hasaranga and just bought a different leggy like Adil Rashid. But I mean, Hasaranga is still one of the best bowlers in and of himself. So yeah, he's still absolutely brilliant and makes him. He walks into that team. I don't know what you think.
I just think you've got to take the point that the mega auction teams are looking to build for the next however long, because they're not going to do another mega auction. This is it really. So Hasaranga, he's only playing his 2nd IPL season and he's young. Adil Rashid's quite an old leggy, whereas Hasaranga's a younger leggy, still learning his trade, and he'll get better with his batting as well in the IPL. I'm definitely not worried about it. And if, let's say, he has a really bad next game, we could always bring in Khan Sharma, who's a decent Indian leggy, and we've got loads of overseas options. We could bring in David Willey. Bring in a top order batsman, maybe Finn Allen, to kind of provide a bit more impetus at the top of the order instead of maybe Virat Kohli, who's struggling. But my hero is Mahapal Lomrel for just keeping it going when we're struggling. He just kept hitting the ball to the boundary and looked really good. And villain wise, I would say it's Dhoni, because he came in, it was his moment to shine, just pulls the ball to deep mid wicket. So there we go.
Benji. As expected, I've got a couple of heroes and villains.
Oh man.
Hero-wise, I'm going to go, first of all, Devon Conway is my hero from Chennai for his fight in a losing cause. And also the former CSK players playing for RCB's club both bowled really well and played really well in Faf du Plessis and Josh Hazelwood. I think they both put good hands in winning that game. My villain is actually going to be Dwayne Pretorius for his smelly death bowling, which has been a big issue, I think, this year with Chennai, because I think he ended up finishing a few runs too many. James, have we got a Cricket Nerds question or a comment of the day?
So we'll start off with comment of the day, which is from Major Merck in our last video. He was commenting on the Punjab game, and he suggested bring back Odie and Smith. Shame on you, Major Merck. Shame on you. I wanted to publicly shame you for that. Don't even suggest these things to me. I did reply to him. I said only if he comes back to the form that he played against England in. Only then can he come back. And then, as far as Cricket Nerds questions go,
roll the
we've got a fancy little intro. Here we go. So, our Cricket Nerds question comes from PD again. He asks, I have a debatable question for you boys. Why are batsmen treated like VIPs? I understand the popularity of high-scoring games, but those are just casual fans. Majority of the cricket articles and accolades are dedicated to batsmen. In my opinion, bowlers work the hardest among all. Thoughts?
I could not agree more with your comment. As a bowler, I think that bowlers never get the credit they deserve until it comes that one time in a tournament where some commentator will say, batsmen win your matches, but bowlers win your tournaments. And I think that is so true, especially in short format where T20 and one day is such a batter's game. I think James has said before how a bowler can bowl in this wide space, one bouncer per over, and only have like two men actually fielding. Yes, it's definitely a batsman's game. The bowlers need to have more credit for being great.
Let me just say, as us batsmen, we can be a bit arrogant sometimes. We like to put our pads on, score a few, and then just stand at slip for the rest of the game, just talking about the rest of the team. That's all we batsmen do. We think we know all about bowling, but we really don't. So yeah, it's definitely a batsman's game, and it's a shame because bowlers do put in a lot of effort. The amount of bowlers who get injuries compared to batsmen, it's ridiculous. Bowlers retire younger than batsmen as well, and I think the reason for that is because they have a harder job. But today, you got your way. Harshal Patel got man of the match. So that's all I'm going to say.
Well, thank you very much for your question, PD. If you want to feature in Cricket Nerds Questions, please leave your questions down in the comments below and leave any other comments. We like the conversation. So don't forget to like and subscribe. We've finally hit 300, boys. Whee!
Yay.
Excellent success. On to 400. Let's go. So, yeah, we will see you guys tomorrow. Please like and subscribe. Follow our social medias. We are at Cricket Nerds Pod. You can listen to our podcast as well on all podcast streaming sites. Other than that, we will see you guys tomorrow. Goodbye.